Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here at the end of the week. Hope you've had a good one. Hope you can have a great weekend. Been talking about a guy named Joseph this week, and I want to finish up this week with a couple of things from Genesis chapter 40. Now, when we last talked, Joseph had been thrown into prison, and his life is getting pretty miserable. I mean, it was pretty bad to start with when they got sold into slavery. Now it's gotten worse. He's in prison. And so let's take a look and see what it says here and see if we can figure something out. Genesis chapter 40 talks about how, while he's in prison, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and his chief baker offended him and threw him into prison with Joseph. So we read in verse 5. While they were in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning. When Joseph saw them the next morning, he noticed that they both looked upset. Why do you look so worried? He asked them. They replied, We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean. Joseph replied, Well, interpreting dreams is God's business. But go ahead, tell me what your dreams were about. I'm kind of amazed that Joseph, after all he's been through to this point, can say to these guys, why are you upset? Well, why wouldn't you be upset? When things don't work out the way you planned, and it looks like they've gotten much, much worse, don't you think it's kind of normal to be upset about that? I mean, these two guys had just left and been removed from positions of great prominence in Pharaoh's court, and now they're in prison. I think that would upset all of us if we were in that kind of situation. So in any case, he looks at him, he says, they look upset. He says, why are you so worried? Joseph has learned. Don't know how he did it, because it doesn't tell us. But he's learned how to not worry. That strike a chord with you? How many of you listening to me today are worried about something? Or how many have worried about something? Now, let me give you a little clue here. I'm not a prognosticator, but I got a feeling this one's a pretty good one. Most of you who listen to me now, if you haven't worried about something, or if you have, in the future, you're going to worry again. Yep, that's it. Now, don't you think we could unlearn that technique? Don't you think we could come up with a better plan? Well, obviously, Joseph has found a better plan because he asked these two guys, what are you worried about? Well, he's got enough to be worried himself, but he recognizes something about God that really would help you and me. Now, like I said, we don't know how he did that. We don't know how he came to this position. If you look at where he started as an arrogant kid to where he is now in a period of a few short years, something's happened. And he's gotten a lot smarter. So he goes on and they say, well, we had dreams and nobody can tell us what they mean. In the days of here and throughout the Bible and in ancient world, dreams meant something. At least people thought they did. And today there's some who do. And I think that indeed sometimes dreams can mean that. Not every dream, but some can. And so here we find this guy in the prison. And what does he say to them? He says, interpreting dreams is God's business. Joseph recognizes that only God can give you the interpretation of a dream. Not a psychic, not a tarot card, not an astrological sign. Only God can do that. And then he says to him, tell me your dream. Well, we'll get to what happens uh, next time. So we'll just leave it at this. Joseph recognizes the place of God in everyday life. Not only does he sustain us, and it says many places that God was with him while he was doing these things. God was with him in prison. God was with him here and there. Not only does God walk with us even when we don't recognize him, but he also does things that are intended for our benefit. So Joseph says, tell me your dream. He's not suggesting he knows the answer. He's simply a conduit to say that God knows the answer. Tell me what you dreamed. We'll see what God says. You and I would do well to live our lives like Joseph is doing, to recognize that God is in charge. He's even in charge of the little things, like having dreams. You can't manufacture your own dream. It just happens. But yet, in the midst of that, God uses those things. He uses every little thing that happens in your life if you will just recognize that he's doing that. And because he's doing all those little things, then it becomes easy to trust him in the big things. See, it's like a little kid learning to walk. When they first start, they're kind of clumsy. But pretty soon they get the hang of it. And once they get the hang of it, ooh, man, you can't hold them back. Then you wish they didn't ever learn how to walk again. I mean, they are everywhere. Once we learn to trust God and understand God is doing little things, then we can find him in the bigger things. So many times we get it the other way around. We want to find him in the big things first, and we get confused. And we get, I don't know what the right word is, we don't know what to do because the thing is so overwhelming. But yet, if we had just taken the time to see God in each little step along the way, when we got to that big thing, it wouldn't be so difficult. Joseph tells the guys, only God can do this. Tell me what you dreamed. What do you dream? I don't mean like this. What do you dream for your life? What do you dream for the next phase? What do you dream about what God can do for you and with you for others? Well, obviously don't know the answer to that one for you, but you think about it. See what God says. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. I'll be back next week, one more week of talking about Joseph. See if we can't learn a few things from his life, a few more things more yet. In the meantime, if you have a prayer concern or a need, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. I'll be back on Monday.